21 years of age, I decided to end my life. I was a dropout of college and lost my girlfriend and my job and my car. A lot of depression, a lot of anxiety. I'd contemplated taking my life for quite some time. I hated who I was. One afternoon, I woke up about 12:30 and I decided, this is it. Life is no longer worth living. I'm gonna end my life. I took the .22 caliber pistol that I kept underneath my sofa. We were in a pretty rough part of town, and took it out and loaded all 9 shells. I cocked back the hammer. I pulled the gun up. I can still remember the barrel, because my hand was shaking, tapping the right side of my temple. And I lowered my head down between my legs and began to squeeze on the trigger. As I'm squeezing the trigger, I hear somebody pull up on the gravel driveway outside. I had a roommate who worked for his father, and he never came home on lunch break. And so I rushed back over to the sofa, disengaged the hammer, turned on the television, wiped the tears off my eyes, and just tried to pretend like everything was okay. And he walked in the door, and I said, "Man, what are you doing home?" And he said, "Man, my dad came up to me and said, why don't you take the second half of the day off, and I'll pay you anyway. You've been working really hard." And I'm thinking, this is the biggest coincidence. A few weeks later, he came home one night and he said, "I gave my life to Christ tonight." Oh, come on, man. Really? I mean, you're from California. I've known you my whole life. I've been to church. I've been there, done that. It's not real. And I know you. And I'm telling you, within 2 weeks, we'll be back at the bar, if you make it that long. But man, I'm telling you what, there was a change. I've never seen somebody so completely turned around. And so later, my mother had seen a commercial where there was a guy that was going to be visiting our city doing a multi-church event. And the end of the commercial was this guy talking about a suicide attempt. A few weeks later, around came this big event. Well, I walked in, I decided to go in. I walked in the balcony. I grew up in church, so I've heard Jesus died on the cross and rose from the grave, and honestly, big deal. But he went into great detail. It was unlike, even sitting here talking about it, it was unlike anything I'd ever heard, because it was so detailed, it was so crisp, it was so real, that when he told the story, it was like I was watching the story. Spitting in his face and ripping off this beard and driving 6-inch spikes in his hand and 9-inch spikes in his feet. And he got to the end and he said, he quoted this verse in John 3:36, "He that has the Son has life. He who does not have the Son does not have life, but the wrath of God is on him." And I'm like, that's me. I'm living, but I'm dying. I don't have a life, I have an existence. And it was like I'd been hit with a javelin. I just know at that moment I realized that I was guilty of the murder of Jesus Christ. It was me that had crucified him. It was me that hit him with a cat o' nine tails. It was me that had cleared my throat and spit in his face and said, "You're a phony." At that moment, more than anything in my life to this day, I've never wanted anything the way I wanted to know him. I've had religion, but I've never had a relationship. I've had stories, but I've never really had the Son. Nothing tonight is going to keep me away from Christ. When I finished praying, there was peace. Peace was a big deal. When you sit there day after day thinking about blowing your brains out, and out of nowhere you experience peace, it's worth everything. I wanted immediately to take this healing, this forgiveness, this rescue, and provide it as an option to other people. I was walking the streets, an unknown guy, talking to prostitutes and homeless people and addicts and winos. The local Salvation Army, they gave me a slot. I was preaching there all the time. But in the midst of all that, we always realize that there's got to be another way. The message doesn't change, but methods do. We launched a late-night television show on secular programming. The darkest hour is a backdoor approach to the gospel. And we have people every race, color, creed. We have people, literally former strippers, gangbangers, people that have been in prison for murder. We've got white collar, blue collar, no collar. People from every walk of life that have they've been stuck in the ditch. But in the midst of their pain, we're rescued by God. My mother once told me, God can never fully use a man until he's first fully broken him. Without a doubt, we've seen thousands upon thousands of people genuinely born again. I mean, I'm not talking about just made some commitment, but people that have truly been radically transformed by the grace of Christ. And we all heard David and Goliath. But to me, the cool part of the story is David ends up cutting off Goliath's head with the very sword that Goliath brought to cut off David's. And I believe that's how God works. He wants to take the weapons that the enemy brings against us and put those in our hands as a tool to combat the enemy. I really do believe your pain is your platform.